She said my name like she was testing it. Soft, uncertain, as if it might break. I hadn't heard her voice in 2 years, but somehow it carried the same warmth that used to undo me. Her sister's house was louder than I remembered. Laughter from the kitchen, the hum of a song from someone's phone. But when she walked in, everything behind her faded out. She'd cut her hair, shorter now, and streaked with silver that caught the light when she tilted her head. Not an attempt to look younger, just unapologetically her. Still, it made my throat tighten in a way I couldn't explain. "Didn't expect to see you here," she said, slipping her bag onto the chair beside mine. "I wasn't sure I should come," I admitted. That earned a smile. Faint, a little sideways, the kind that said she understood too much. She was my friend's older sister once, the one who never seemed to notice me at the time. But that was before everything changed, before I'd grown into someone who could finally meet her gaze without looking away. The room was full of people, but I couldn't tell you a single word anyone else said. She sat across from me, one leg crossed over the other, her hand tracing the rim of her glass. Her nails were bare, clean, practical. Yet I couldn't stop watching the way her fingers moved. "You've changed since last time," she said finally, not looking at me. "So have you." That made her pause. Her hands stilled. Then she looked up, and for a second it wasn't small talk anymore. Something heavier sat in the air between us. She tilted her head slightly, eyes narrowing, studying me like I was a photograph she wasn't sure she wanted to keep. "You sound older." "I am," I said, though what I really meant was I finally see you. The night stretched on in fragments. A toast, the sound of rain starting against the windows, her laugh echoing from the other end of the room. Every time she passed behind my chair, I felt the faint pull of her perfume, warm, subtle, the kind that stays close to the skin. When she leaned down to reach for a napkin, her hand brushed my shoulder. Not by accident, not quite on purpose. My pulse jumped anyway. She noticed. There was a flicker, in her eyes, in the way her mouth parted for half a breath before she caught herself and looked away. "You're quiet," she murmured later, as we found ourselves near the hallway. "So are you." Her lips twitched. "Maybe we're both thinking too much." "About what?" She looked at me for a long moment before answering. "About what's changed." Outside, thunder rolled somewhere distant. The sound pressed into the silence between us, and for a heartbeat, it felt like the whole house was waiting. Her hand brushed against mine again. Slower this time, almost deliberate. I didn't move. Neither did she. Then the door from the kitchen swung open, and her sister's voice cut through the air. She stepped back first. Too quickly. The warmth vanished. When I looked at her again, her expression was unreadable. Half smile, half defense. "I should help with dessert," she said. Her voice was steady, but her fingers were still trembling as she reached for the glass. And as she turned away, I realized. She wasn't the only one who'd changed. I found her later on the back porch, standing under the weak yellow light, cigarette burning low between her fingers. She didn't smoke much, she'd once said. Only when she needed to remember who she was before everyone expected her to be someone else. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled of it. Damp wood, cooling concrete, a hint of her perfume clinging to the night. "Didn't think you'd still be here," she said without turning around. "I was waiting for the storm to stop." She gave a small laugh, tired, genuine. "You always were patient." I wanted to ask what she meant, but the words caught somewhere behind my teeth. There was a history between us, one made up of years we'd spent apart, things never said, glances that ended too quickly. Her marriage had ended 2 years ago. I knew that much from her sister, though I'd never asked for details. Just that it ended quietly, without shouting. Like a door closing on a room neither of them wanted to live in anymore. I'd been in college back then. She'd shown up at one of her sister's gatherings, smiling too hard, pretending she was fine. That was the first time I noticed the small tremor in her hands when she laughed, the way she excused herself before anyone could ask if she was okay. Now, under the porch light, she looked steadier but lonelier too. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she said softly. I still fixed on the street. "How am I looking at you?" Like you know me. She turned then, close enough that I could see the faint scar near her collarbone. A line of pale skin against the warmth of her neck. The cigarette burned out between her fingers. You don't, she added. Maybe not, I said. But I want to. Her lips parted just slightly. Not a smile, not quite protest. She was too smart to pretend she didn't feel it too, but too careful to let it show. The light buzzed overhead. The house behind us was full of voices, but out here, it was just the soft scrape of her heel on the wood, the sound of her breath uneven. She moved past me to drop the cigarette in the ashtray. Her arm brushed my chest, a brief contact that sent a shock through both of us. Sorry, she murmured, even though we both knew she wasn't. Her fingers lingered for half a second longer than they should have before she pulled away. I swallowed hard. You don't have to be. She froze, not from fear, but recognition. Her gaze lifted, meeting mine for the first time that night without the armor of politeness. Felt like stepping too close to a flame. Then, softly, she said, "You really have changed." This time, she didn't look away. The house had quieted, the kind of late-night quiet where every sound feels louder than it should. Plates stacked, chairs pushed in, voices fading into other rooms. Her sister had gone upstairs, humming to herself. I found her again in the kitchen, rinsing glasses. The light above the sink was soft, gold against her skin. "You don't have to clean up," I said. "I can't sit still," she replied, half smiling. Old habit. Water ran over her hands, and I couldn't stop watching the way she moved. Calm, deliberate, every small motion betraying what her face didn't. When she turned off the tap, the silence that followed felt heavy. She dried her hands slowly, eyes flicking toward me, then away. "You shouldn't be here this late," she said finally. "I was waiting to say goodbye." Her laugh was quiet, almost a whisper. "You always need a reason, don't you?" I stepped closer, just enough to catch the faint scent of her shampoo, the warmth radiating off her skin. "And you always pretend you don't," I said. Her hand tightened on the towel. "You think you know what this is?" "No," I admitted. "But I know how it feels." That made her look up, sharp, searching. For a second, neither of us moved. The air felt too small to hold both of us. Then came the sound of footsteps. Quick, uneven, from the hallway. She took a step back, the towel dropping onto the counter. Her sister's voice called out, "Hey, you see my phone charger?" "In the living room," she answered immediately, not missing a beat. I stayed still, my heart hammering so loudly I thought it might give us away. Her sister's shadow passed the doorway. A pause, then retreating steps. The tension in her shoulders eased only slightly. When the silence returned, she exhaled, slow, shaky. "That was close," I murmured. She turned to me, eyes narrowing. "This is exactly why it can't happen." "Then why are you still standing here?" Her breath caught. For a heartbeat, everything else disappeared. The light, the hum of the fridge, the ticking clock. Just us. She reached for the towel again, but her fingers brushed my wrist instead. A pause. Her thumb grazed the inside of my wrist, tracing the pulse there. She didn't move away. Neither did I. Her voice came out barely audible. "You're too young to know what this costs. Try me." Her eyes softened, regret, fear, something else tangled beneath. "You think this is easy for me? I think you're trying too hard to make it hard." That broke something in her. Her lips parted, breath catching. The distance between us shrinking until I could feel it. The warmth of her body, the ghost of her perfume, the gravity pulling us closer. Her hand rose, hesitated midair, fingertips brushing my jaw before she pulled back. Not a kiss, not yet, but everything right before it. And even when she turned away, I knew neither of us could go back to pretending that I didn't plan to see her again the next night. But when her sister texted about another small get-together, I didn't even hesitate. She opened the door before I could knock twice. Her hair was damp, pulled back loosely, a few strands sticking to her neck. She wasn't wearing makeup. For the first time, she looked undone. and real in a way that made it hard to breathe. "You came," she said. "You didn't tell me not to." She gave a faint, humorless smile. "Maybe I should've." Her sister left to pick up more wine, promising she'd be 10 minutes. That was 40 minutes ago. The house had fallen into a kind of twilight stillness. Just the two of us and the muted sound of rain starting again outside. She was sitting on the couch, one leg tucked under her, scrolling through her phone without seeing it. I sat across from her, pretending to read a text that didn't exist. Finally, she said, "You keep looking at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you're waiting for me to say something I shouldn't." I set my phone down. "Maybe I'm just waiting for you to stop pretending you don't want to." Her eyes lifted slowly. "You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me." The clock ticked somewhere behind us, every second stretching too long. She exhaled, almost a laugh, but the sound trembled. "I spent years trying not to need anyone," she said quietly. "My marriage, it wasn't bad. It just disappeared, like air leaking out of something you didn't notice was deflating." She looked down, fingers twisting in her lap. "Then you walk in, and suddenly I'm back to feeling everything I taught myself to ignore." I stood before I thought it through, closing the space between us. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my palms. "I didn't come here to make things complicated," I said. "I just couldn't stay away." She looked up, eyes glassy, tired, wanting. When I brushed a strand of hair from her face, she didn't pull back. My fingers lingered near her jaw, the heat of her skin making it impossible to think straight. "This is wrong," she whispered. "Then why does it feel like the only thing that's real?" Her breath hitched, her body leaning ever so slightly into mine. I could feel the tremor in her shoulders, the warmth radiating from her, the scent of rain on her hair. Her hand came up, resting lightly on my chest. Not to stop me, but to steady herself. "I don't want to ruin you," she said. "You couldn't," I breathed. The room seemed to fold in around us. The storm outside grew louder, thunder rolling close, a flash of light breaking through the curtains. And just as her lips parted, a car door slammed outside. Her sister's voice echoed faintly through the hallway. She froze. I didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on mine, wide, raw, filled with everything she hadn't said. "Don't," she whispered, not sure if it was a plea or a promise. The front door creaked open, and their moment held, trembling, one heartbeat away from breaking. The next morning, everything looked ordinary, too ordinary. The storm had passed, the light through the kitchen window was soft, and her sister was humming again as she brewed coffee. But beneath it, something sharp lingered. She avoided my eyes when I walked in. Her hair was tied up, face composed, like last night hadn't happened. Like we hadn't stood an inch apart with everything unsaid burning between us. "Morning," I said. She nodded. "Sleep okay?" "Not really." A pause. The kind of pause that says everything you shouldn't. Her sister came in, barefoot, cheerful, talking too fast. "You two were up late," she said casually, reaching for mugs. My stomach tightened. "Just talking," she replied too quickly. Her sister shot her a look. Not suspicious, but curious enough to make her flinch. And then it happened. The moment that cracked the calm. Her sister smirked lightly. "You know, I heard you two last night. You were laughing about something. Sounded kinda close." The older woman froze mid-motion, mug still in her hand. I tried to say something, anything, but the words stuck. Her sister only chuckled, waving it off. "Relax, I'm joking." She left the room still humming. But the damage was already done. When we were alone again, she set the mug down too hard. Coffee sloshed over her fingers. "You should go," she said quietly. "Because of what she said?" "Because she's right," she snapped, then winced at her own voice. "Because this isn't something I can explain if she asks." I stepped closer, my voice low. "So we keep pretending? Pretending that nothing's happening?" Her eyes flicked to mine, wide, afraid, wanting. "That's exactly what we have to do." I reached out instinctively, not to touch, just to keep her from pulling further away. But she did anyway, moving past me toward the sink. "She's my sister," she whispered. "She trusts me. And you think I'd make her stop?" "It's not you I don't trust," she said, turning around slowly. "It's myself." The air between us changed again, heavier, closer, as if the words themselves had drawn us in. "I've been trying not to think about you," she admitted, voice trembling. "Ever since last night." "Then stop trying," I said. She gave a breathless, broken laugh, one that ended halfway between a sob and a sigh. "You don't understand what that would mean for me." "Then explain it." She looked at me for a long time, every line of her body taut with conflict. Her fingers trembled as she gripped the edge of the counter. And then she said it, barely audible, like a confession torn out of her. "I looked for you after you left. 2 years ago. I told myself it was nothing, but it wasn't. I wanted to see you again." I stepped forward before she could retreat. She didn't move, didn't breathe. The tension between us was a living thing now. Fragile, dangerous, impossible to ignore. Her sister's laughter echoed faintly from the other room. Neither of us turned toward it. Her hand was still trembling when she whispered, "If I don't stop this now, I won't be able to." And I answered, "Then don't." It was late again when I went back. I told myself it was just to return the book I'd borrowed, the one she'd forgotten she lent me. But we both knew better. Her porch light was off. I hesitated before knocking, heart pounding too hard for something that wasn't supposed to mean anything. When she opened the door, her expression shifted from surprise to something she tried to hide. "You shouldn't be here." "I know." She stepped aside anyway. The house was quiet, her sister's car gone. A movie paused on the TV, the faint smell of tea still in the air. She closed the door slowly, as if delaying the moment we'd have to face what was waiting between us. "You came back," she said. "I didn't know how not to." Her shoulders rose, then fell with a long, quiet breath. "You think this is simple?" "No," I said. "That's why it matters." She turned toward the window, arms folded, eyes fixed on the rain starting again outside. "You're too young to understand what people give up for peace. And you're too afraid to believe peace and wanting don't have to cancel each other out." Her head snapped slightly at that. Not in anger, but like I'd hit something she'd been trying to bury. I stepped closer, slow, careful. "You told me you looked for me after I left. I haven't stopped thinking about that." She laughed, soft, bitter, almost tender. "You think that means I should let you in?" "No," I said. "I think it means you already have." When she turned around, she was close enough that I could see the small freckles across her collarbone, the rise and fall of her chest. Her hand lifted before she seemed to realize it, brushing against my shirt, then curling into a fist like she was fighting herself. "This can't be just wanting," she whispered. "It can't survive on that." "It isn't." She looked up, finally, fully, and for a moment neither of us breathed. My fingers brushed her cheek, tracing the line of her jaw. Her eyes closed, a single tear catching on her lashes. Not from sadness, but from the weight of finally not pretending. She leaned into my hand. "Just slightly. Just enough." "I don't know what happens after this," she said. "You don't have to." Her voice broke into a whisper. "You'll hate me when it gets hard. Maybe, but not enough to stop coming back." Her laugh came out shaky, almost like a sob. Then she exhaled, the kind of breath you release when you've been holding it for years. She stepped forward. The distance vanished. Her forehead rested against mine, both of us trembling. No words, no pretending, just the quiet thud of two hearts that finally stopped running in opposite directions. When she finally pulled back, her eyes met mine, clear now, steady. "This doesn't fix anything," she said. "I'm not here to fix you," I whispered. "I just see you." And for the first time, she didn't look away. Morning came quietly. No thunder, no noise. Just the soft light pressing through her curtains and the steady rhythm of rain easing off the roof. She was sitting at the kitchen table when I woke. Hair loose, sweater slipping off one shoulder, both hands wrapped around a mug. The world looked softer around her. For a second, I just stood there, watching her. It wasn't desire this time. It was recognition. "You're staring," she said without looking up. "Still getting used to the idea that you're real." That earned a small smile. "You always say things like that. Like you mean them." "I do." She gestured to the chair across from her. "Coffee's still warm." I sat. We didn't talk for a while. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, just familiar, comfortable, the kind of quiet that doesn't need filling. Eventually, she said, "I kept thinking I'd wake up and realize this was another mistake. And now," she hesitated, eyes tracing the rim of her mug. "Now I think I'm just tired of being afraid of what people think." I nodded slowly. "Good." She looked at me, really looked, and something shifted in her expression. Less guarded. More her. "I can't promise you easy," she said softly. "I never asked for easy." She reached across the table then, fingers brushing mine. A small, unhurried gesture, but it said everything. Her hand was warm, steady this time. No trembling. "When I first met you," she said, "you were just my sister's friend. Quiet. Too young. I didn't notice you much. And now," she smiled, tired but sincere, "now I can't stop noticing you." I squeezed her hand, and for once, she didn't pull away. We sat there for a long time, not hiding, not explaining. Just two people who'd stopped running from what was already true. The rain faded. Light filled the room in uneven patches. She leaned back, brushing a strand of hair from her face, and I reached out to do the same. This time she let me. Her eyes softened. "You still think I've changed?" "I think we both did," I said. "Maybe that's the point." She let out a small breath, part relief, part disbelief, and leaned closer. Her head rested lightly against my shoulder, her hand still linked with mine on the table. No big speeches, no dramatic ending, just warmth. She whispered, "I forgot what this felt like." "What?" "To be seen, without having to explain myself." I turned slightly, pressing a slow kiss to her forehead. Nothing rushed, nothing claimed, just quiet honesty. And when she closed her eyes, I knew this wasn't about risk anymore. It was about choosing each other, even when the world might not understand. Outside, the clouds broke open to a thin strip of sun. Inside, neither of us moved. Not pretending, not hiding, just being. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?